Gucci is in absolute crisis mode. Gucci's 2025 first quarter results are out, and the numbers are making headlines for obviously all the wrong reasons. There's a staggering 25% drop in sales, and the brand is facing one of its toughest challenges yet. And Gucci has had bad financial performance for quite a while now, and the one glimmer of hope is them hiring the creative director from Balenciaga, Demna Gvasalia. Demna Gvasalia was the orchestrator of a big resurgence for Balenciaga after 10 years from Nicolas Gasquier that was big to an Alexander Wang tenure that many people were not fans of. He did this by modernizing our understanding of what clothing is, what couture is, and also modernizing Cristóbal Balenciaga's design tropes and aesthetics. We saw cocoon shapes turned into parka jackets, dress silhouettes turned into parkas, and we saw couture collections where Demna was making the case that denim could also be a fabric that is associated with couture in the modern day. In a nutshell, Demna's time at Balenciaga was extremely influential, and he had a really great time there. We saw all the trends that he started, from the Triple S sneakers and how that really became a big trend with the chunky sneakers that every luxury brand was doing, to being a big part of the opium aesthetic that people have seen on Playboy Carti and all of his minions therefore. Kering's Q1 2025 report reveals a 14% year-over-year decline in sales, bringing in just 3.9 billion euros. This is a huge slowdown for Kering, especially with the biggest brand in the Kering stable being Gucci seeing the worst performance. And for context as to how crazy it is with Gucci sales going down by 25%, bear in mind that most of the time, Gucci is responsible for 50% of Kering's sales and revenue, and their sales went down by 25%. That is absolutely insane. When you look at their financial reports, you can see that this decline in revenue is happening across the board, to be honest. Now, the wholesale plummeting really doesn't surprise me. I've reported about this before, but Gucci has said themselves that they are trying to cut back on wholesale and really just focusing on D2C. They also felt like Gucci was starting to become too easy to get, and they really needed to take control of their branding and marketing by bringing a lot of these things back in-house. So that doesn't really surprise me, but overall, it's still terrible performance. Now, there are many factors at play as to why Gucci is seeing this decline. With Trump's tariffs, the potential for an economic crisis, cost of living crisis in the UK, overall, there has been a luxury slowdown across the board. And increasingly, as I've mentioned on this channel many times, luxury consumers are looking less at clothing and looking more into experiences. That's why we have seen pop-ups from different luxury brands. They're launching hotels, they're working in hospitality, they're launching pop-up cafes, they are providing trips. The new luxury right now, especially for younger consumers, is traveling and experiences. And if they want to see better performance, that's something that they very much have to invest a lot of money into. And to me, a lot of this bad financial performance is very much self-inflicted. They had a good thing going with the likes of Alessandro Michele. He was there for many, many years and really raised the profits and revenue of Gucci in a way that they had never seen before. At a time when most brands weren't making a lot of money, they decided to part ways with him. Now, the rumor is that behind the scenes, they wanted Alessandro Michele to go in a different aesthetic, an aesthetic that was more minimal and very much in line with what Tom Ford was doing at Gucci, which a lot of people consider the heyday of Gucci. However, Alessandro Michele has his own design language. We've seen that now that he's at Valentino. He's stuck with his guns on that aesthetic. And so the story is he refused, and so they parted ways and they found a designer that would, in a sense, do their bidding and do what they wanted. And they, of course, hired Salvatore De Sarno, who did do the minimal aesthetic, who did do the whole quiet luxury thing. From the second it happened, I thought it didn't make any sense. Why does that not make any sense? Because the thing about Tom Ford's Gucci, what made it interesting, apart from the clothes, was Tom Ford himself and his lifestyle and kind of what he was promoting through Gucci, through the campaigns, this sort of jet set lifestyle, this sexiness that you used to see through the campaigns. It's all of that context is lost and everything falls on deaf ears, and it's really bland when the clothing is minimal, but the marketing machine of Tom Ford is not behind it and the branding is not behind it. And so that's why from the get-go, I could see that that plan would definitely not work. It was also too in line with so many other brands that were producing clothing at that time. I always joke about the fact that, everyone is going minimal, but there's so many minimal brands. I mean, there's Phoebe Philo, there's La Mer, there's Xenia, there's The Row. There's just so many brands. And it's really like, why would you buy the Gucci version over all of the other brands when those brands have cemented their aesthetic as looking that way for a lot of years? I also find it very interesting that they didn't think that there would be any financial kickback when Alessandro Michele, who had a very distinctively maximalist aesthetic, left Gucci and they wanted to go to a minimal aesthetic. Those are polar opposites. Why would they think that the customers that are already there for Alessandro Michele would all of a sudden be like, I guess we want minimal clothes now, even though I was buying maximalism, and totally just buy Sabato's clothing and buy it even more? I think it was a bit crazy. So I honestly think a lot of these issues that Gucci is having, and Kering as a whole, a lot of these could have been avoided, and they're very much self-inflicted. Of course, we're going into this new era of Demna at Gucci, and I think there will be some very interesting things. I think that Demna is a very good designer. However, there are some drawbacks and there are some caveats to that. A lot of people are still pissed off at him about the controversy around Balenciaga and the kid campaign. That's something that they have to weather the storm about if that keeps being brought up. I'm curious to see exactly how they are going to handle that in the press and in the media, because I can already see the writing on the wall with that coming up multiple times. And so Demna really has his work cut out for him. Of course, Gucci is the big job. He was at Balenciaga, and a lot of people don't read these financial reports, and so they don't even know that Gucci is a significantly bigger brand than Balenciaga, and it's way more important financially to Kering than Balenciaga ever will be, at least in the near future, which is why they brought their star designer from Balenciaga to Gucci. In Demna's eyes, it's probably bigger pay, it's a bigger opportunity, it's more resources. However, the challenges that he will face at Gucci will be vast. One of the strengths, I think, of Demna's work is his ability to tap into cultural zeitgeist and create conversations around his collections, whether that's for good reasons or bad reasons, whether that's him making shoebox bags out of leather, IKEA bags, 7-layer Parker jackets, and all the other, what I would call gimmicks he created at Balenciaga. But ultimately, it creates a conversation and it makes people involved. It gets people going and it builds a sort of cult following and cult interest in what he's doing. It also has the knock-on effect, of course, of building a lot of buzz around the brand, and he's very good when it comes to social media, attracting eyeballs and really getting those impressions going for a brand. And so Gucci's future is hanging on a balance, and really it looks like the only person that can save the brand is Demna. Will we see him bring that post-irony aesthetic to Gucci, a brand that was really built on history and heritage, and of course Tom Ford's time, which is associated with the jet set lifestyle and sexiness? And will he be able to rebuild trust and change the narrative around the controversy that he faced at Balenciaga? All of that is to be seen, but let me know what your thoughts are.